What video game will always be nostalgic for you? Lemmings, played at first on the Spectrum and loved those mono-colored animals, kept with them through the different versions on early console and to PC, shame about the mobile version. Warhammer Online, sure not all the features were ready at launch, or even close from what I remember, but the scale was amazing. PvP was just right, the open world and hidden lore items to get XP from. WildStar came close though. I first dove into this game during a summer at my grandma's house. This was my only game that her computer could run, and it was more than enough. The core gameplay is rock solid. Like, merry-go-round, drink stall, hamburger stall, bathroom, that's how you start out. Let's fucking go. It's been more than 20 years, and I think I've restarted the campaign once every year or 3, since then, because it's just so easy to fall back into. Maybe I get a dozen parks in before another game catches my eye, or, maybe I don't even finish Forest Frontiers before I get distracted. Either way, it's the old reliable. I have RCT Classic on my phone now, which is nice, but it really doesn't scratch that same itch. The UI is as amazing as they could make it, and it's still just not as satisfying as playing it the way Chris Sawyer intended it. Speaking of which, RCT2 and OpenWRT 2 are equally as fantastic, but, honestly, I prefer just classic RCT with the expansions. Children Screaming. WoW. So it was Christmas break and a bunch of my friends got it, but I didn't talk to all of them over break. We got back to school and I'm talking to Jeff about the game and he tells me he already beat it. I couldn't believe it. I asked him how he figured out the water temple so quickly and he said what water temple? Turns out he only collected the first 3 stones and thought that was it. I'll never forget the look of pain on his face when I explained that was all basically just the intro. A prologue to start the real journey. Haha, love that game. Edit, Jeff was 12 at the time. I was terrible at it, but damn, the space battle were breathtaking and actually interesting strategy-wise, not only spectacle. And of course the go into the ship to fuck everything up from inside strategy that everyone inevitably did once they were tired of dogfighting, and the rare moment where I followed you inside. Never actually played the multiplayer. My internet connection was way too weak at the time. Pokémon Gen 1 had 2 things going for it that I think Pokémon will never, ever be able to recapture simply due to the march of time, which I think makes them worth especially highlighting in this thread. Those games were broken as fuck. There were so many glitches that all of us 10-year-olds who only had Pokémon Red as their only Game Boy game inevitably ran into some weird shit happening, whether it was accidentally clipping through a wall, to encountering glitch Pokémon. Those bugs created an atmosphere where fucking anything was at least feasible. The internet was still in its infancy, so most kids got their information about the game from their friends. This created wild rumor mills that actually, occasionally turned out to be true. You really can get practically infinite items by surfing on the beach at Cinnabar. Wow. There really is a truck over to the left side of the SS, and maybe there is a way to coax Mew out from under it. These 2 things were compounded by the already encyclopedic level of knowledge available about the game. I mean, when you learned that certain Pokémon could learn certain moves at lower levels by not evolving, or that certain Pokémon could only evolve in certain ways, and that there are dozens of type interactions between both moves and Pokémon, you started to wonder what other quirks and intricacies were lying in wait. More than that, there always seemed to be a new rumor or crazy thing a friend showed you that made you question everything all over again. Just how in the fuck did Jake from 6 houses down the block get to level 255 Kingler? It all added up to a Pokémon world that felt magical, full of ridiculous, limitless possibilities, where every scrap of knowledge had to be play-tested before being added or discarded from your own personal mastery of these crazy little monsters. Nowadays, with every detail being available online, It's hard to experience that wonder when the temptation of quick answers is just a few finger tapes away, a temptation exacerbated by the fact that there are now so many different sets of information for each generation of Pokémon that you really need access to that information just to keep all the changes straight. Sure, glitches and tricks are still there, but they're fewer and farther between, and without the word-of-mouth experience, they feel less like personal discoveries of the Pokémon universe. People can make fun of me all they want for being a Gen 1 or whatever, but there really was a lot more to the phenomenon of that era of Pokémon than just a couple of really good games backed by an insanely effective marketing strategy and successful cartoon. Our FALs were proximity mines in the library. Our friend Brandon, think Eric Cartman, only so fat he fell through the floor of his mobile home, hated proxy mines because they required no skill and he grinded that game, beat that game on all settings. He could expert kill you with remote mines and timer mines. Didn't think it was fair that we, lesser skilled players, could use proxy mines to kill. Refused any game that was set to proxy mine. One game we were beating him. We got smart and decided that instead of Battle Royale, we needed to team up against him. He unplugged our controllers. This led to another form of the game, Tosk Hunt. Tosk Hunt, from the Deep Space Nine episode Captive Pursuit. One player is Tosk, others chase after Tosk. Winner is who kills Tosk the most time. Tosk wins if he has the most kills. When Brandon was Tosk we set to proxy mines because fuck you Tosk. Brandon was the only Tosk to win. I was 10 and didn't speak English when I started that game. Had to basically learn a new language while playing it. It was such an amazing experience playing through that game. Going from LVL 1 nobody to a slightly higher LVL somebody was a fantastic feeling. The music and voice acting was great too. Then when you started BG2 the whole thing seemed so quaint all of a sudden. You'd been so low level. The stakes seemed low too. God, I love those games. Halo Combat Evolved. I was like 5 years old and absolutely obsessed with trucks and army men, and here's my uncle and grandfather playing some game with aliens and guns, but most importantly, the Warthog. It was the coolest looking thing ever and I begged them to let me play and they finally did. I think I spent 3-4 hours just driving around the second campaign mission. FFWD 20 years, and every time I boot up the game, the soundtrack and voice acting and everything just takes me right back to 2001, and sometimes I tear up a little. I was talking last week to a friend and told him that it would be so fun to reunite a group of friends and play Wii Sports, and he told me that 2 years ago, him and his group of friends were at their town's carnival fair and they were pretty bored. So they went to the house of one of them. They were really drunk and one girl saw a Wii and told the group that it would be fun to turn it on and check out the games, and they ended playing Wii Sports. I was like, dude, that sounds so fun. I bet you guys had a great time, and he told me they arrived to the friend's house at like 1 a.m. and ended up leaving at like 11 a.m. They were like 2 hours straight up laughing while making everyone's miss, and then they were all night playing every minigame. Oh man, I remember visiting my friend's house as a wee lad and he showed me this game. When I saw the whole map's size, I was blown away. It looked so massive and diverse. To this day, I am still mad that they didn't do another overworld like that game has. They kind of do it sometimes, but it never has this many secrets and paths to take like SMW had. The secret pipe that showed you Bowser's Valley in the second area of the game, literally just for you to have a sneak peek. That is genius. This is absolutely the one for me. I was 6-7 years old when my family fled from war in Yugoslavia, and we stayed with relatives in Vienna. The kid had a NES with SMB3. It was pure magic. We struggled so long to clear the first jump, but soon we got into the groove. When we settled down in Sweden, my parents saved up money and bought me a NES with SMB3 for my birthday, and I literally couldn't believe it. I thought they had borrowed it from someone to let me play over the weekend. I didn't have many games, so I beat SMB3 over and over again. I'm now in my mid-30s, and no birthday gift will ever beat that, and SMB3 is the game that made me a lifetime gamer. I remember having to send a money order in the mail and waiting 2 weeks for a 3-month membership. That game helped me escape life in 2009 when my best friend died. 2012 ended up being the year one got banned for botting, lost a lot of hard-earned shit because I was too occupied with needing to play while working and adjusting to a social life. Now I'm back at it again with OSRS. It's not the same, but at the same time it is. Got my fiancée to even play it. Just collects stuff and skills. It's adorable to see the flame in her eyes for the game I once held dear. I wish I had that spark still. Red Alert 2, so over the top and silly with less space micromanagement than StarCraft, though I did play the crap out of that too. Half-Life 2, the first real modern FPS I played. Coming from UT98, the graphics made my jaw drop. Something about the atmosphere and movement and combat really clicked too. I played a lot of HL2:DM back in the day. My 2 top picks, though with special mention to Neverhood, the silly soundtrack never gets old. Diablo 2, click 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 click. Oh, you want to build that sends a wave of 50 bone teeth every time you attack? No problem. And Dune 2000, which was really just another C&C but with sandworms. Very much a PC biased list because my parents refused to buy me a console, but PC gaming was all fair. River City Ransom. I remember the night that I first rented it, not long after its release in 1990. It was a Thursday night and I was in the 2nd grade. It was the first time my mother had ever made tacos. So after filling up on crunchy Ortega shells and Old El Paso beef seasoning, which felt like something from the scorched depths of Tijuana itself to my Puritan palate, I plopped down in front of the TV, sat on the creaky wooden floor and had as it. I had selected the game because my parents had recently purchased a copy of West Side Story from one of those get 10 movies for 1 cent deals that were prevalent at the time, and I'd fallen in love with the film's aesthetic and setting. The box art for River City Ransom reminded me a lot of the Rumble Under the Highway sequence, so I grabbed it up as my weekend's entertainment. To this day it remains one of my all-time favorite games and I'll never forget that night. Aside from the tacos and the game, there really wasn't anything special about it, but I think it's special that I remember that feeling, especially among the countless others that I've entirely forgotten. I've played through every Zelda, mainline and side series, and Twilight Princess is still my favorite. The sense of dark atmosphere and melancholic anxiety is weaved throughout the game so masterfully. It has a presence that just sticks with you. The dungeons are all so unique and fun, like, I'm running around some Yeti couple's decrepit mansion helping to make soup, and then later I'm up in the sky hook-shotting back and forth. I never knew quite what to expect when I played it. In my opinion, it's the perfect refinement of the 3D Zelda formula, though I did like Skyward a lot, but I wish they scaled back some of the filler stuff to add a few more dungeons. Aha, after all this time I finally found you, my evil twin. Well, I imagine you'd be the good twin. I also indulged in a lot of these. I'm only 3 years older. I grew up in the golden age of arcades and will never forget the awe of seeing Dragon's Lair for the first time. Adventure, Combat, Gunslinger, Speedway 2, Raiders of the Lost Ark, a good amount of the Activision, Imagic, and Parker Brothers games. I remember playing Smurfs on a ColecoVision in Sears for as long as I could and always wanting that system. NES Nostalgia's Super Mario Bros. 2, The Legend of Zelda, Mega Man 2 and the Castlevania games. SMS Nostalgia's Phantasy Star, Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Super Nintendo, PS1 and Saturn, Dreamcast, Game Boy/Color/Advance and Neo Geo Pocket Color. PC gaming with Doom 2 and Duke Nukem. Lost a few years to EverQuest and even more to WoW. Team Fortress 2, Portal and Portal 2. Like you, I could keep going forever. Smile. Capone and Pinball Dreams on the Amiga. My parents were in constant competition and it was awesome. King's Quest 2 because we got stuck killing the snake. Then I figured it out early one morning and got to loudly announce it to the household. Ports of Call. My granddad had a full-blown diary of buy and sell prices for his cargo. Also, the CD version of Carmen Sandiego and Lexicross, which he loved and we enjoyed playing together. Interceptor, because I eventually managed to land on the carrier. Wings, Secret Weapons of the Luftwaffe and Wings of Fury, because those were the games my best friend and I would huddle around the PC and play together. Duke Nukem 3D, Descent and Warcraft 2. Those were the game we first started playing networked with friends. Delta Force Land Warrior, COD 4, SWAT 4, Viet Cong, Battlefield, Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon, because when I moved interstate, those were the games that kept me connected to family and friends. Edit, and Sparkle Unleashed, which I didn't play, but was the first game to make my wife kick me off the PlayStation so she could, in her words, game for a bit. Total shame what happened to that company and game. It is, but it's been a long time coming. The game has been going steadily downhill for a solid decade. We may not have known the extent of the shitbaggery going on internally, but the way they've acted and responded to player complaints and concerns over the years means I'm not really surprised that it's a dysfunctional and abusive workplace. The game itself, especially the early expansions, is still amazing though. If you want to get that nostalgia hit but don't want to give Blizz any more of your money, there are plenty of private servers out there. Red Dead Redemption. I never played video games much. When I was younger my older brother played them a lot. We were close but never really had similar lifestyles, we just had different interests. But late in the evenings he'd be playing video games and I'd want to sit down so I'd hang out with him and watch him play video games. I actually enjoyed just watching but never played much myself. He ended up dying in a car accident. It was rough. When going through his things we came across the gaming stuff, a computer and various PS consoles. Nobody in my family cared for them but I wanted to keep his gaming stuff despite my mediocre interest in actual gaming. It was just the way we spent time together and I knew he loved his games. I didn't actually touch much of it for a long time but one day it was raining out and I couldn't do much so I thought I should fire up some video games. I looked through his games. I had heard of RDR but never played it and thought that I should check it out. OMG, I fell in love. I've never played a game that I thought was so much fun. I played it so much, I finally finished it and RDR 2 was already out so I decided to go buy it. It was another rainy day. I just thought it was a good idea. Carmageddon. Back when that game came out, I was in college. Me and a group of friends all used to have LAN parties most weekends at a buddy's house. Honestly, it was the happiest time of my life. We'd stay up all night playing Carmageddon, fueled up on pizza and booze. We all had decent gaming PCs, 3D FX cards had just become a thing, and we spent hours playing that game multiplayer, as well as stuff like Quake 2, Half-Life, etc., and just laughed our asses off, hours and hours. In the morning my friend's mom would always cook us a big breakfast and the gaming would continue into the day. My friend's mom since passed away, and his brother, who used to game with us, also died. It seems hard to believe sometimes, but being shut in a couple of rooms with great friends playing video games, and especially Carmageddon, was just so much fun. GTA San Andreas. I first played it when I was 16, 29 now, and have got 5 copies of it lol. I have the original disc PC version, the Steam version, Android and both PS4 versions. One island the PC port and one is the original PS2 port. I don't know how many times I have played it but every time I do, I always do it to the end and it feels great every time, most recently being the PS2 port. The soundtrack, the characters, the city, the variety, in my opinion has never been matched. What astounds me is how small the map is compared to GTA V, yet how much bigger it feels. Even though most consider it one of the worst, Final Fantasy VIII, it was the first game I felt attached to its world and characters, something I remember bringing me joy on off days when I felt down as a kid. The first game where I felt I could escape my problems. Love the story, music, characters and especially the cinematics which were next level for that time. Even loved the Magic Junction system and still play it sometimes to this day. I know it's not going to happen but a remake like 7 would be amazing and I think it deserves it. Road Rash 3. Me and my little bro used to rent it from the video shop for £1 for a week, but it turned out we were the only people renting it, so one week the guy just told us not to bother bringing it back. It was like Christmas. We only had the one controller for our Mega Drive, and my little bro wasn't too good at the steering, so we used to share the controller. I'd steer and he'd accelerate and punch. We'd sit on the floor in front of the TV like that for hours. We were so synchronized, but we didn't have a memory card, so we'd just have to do it all again the next day. Other favorites were Alex Kidd, Busby, Rayman Multiplayer, Sonic 2, one with the cricket that I can't remember the name of, and Road Trip. Echo the Dolphin can fuck right off though.